also told me, you know how people like will cheers and then hit the table and then do a shot. He said, don't do it, because people used to do it back in the day, obviously way back in the day. They would do it and they would hit the table as a gesture to the king. And he said, you're a king. You don't need to do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I understand that, but I do it for the people that I've...
The homies.
The homies I've lost. And he said, pour some out.
Yeah.
And I was like...
Hey, you're supposed to pour a drink for the homies.
I was like, I like that, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's like, you're a king. Don't ever tap the table again. It's a habit. I mean, I don't drink that often, but it's a habit that I still have to break. But I really like that he said it to me. That was one of the guys down in Florida.
Gotcha.
So this episode is brought to you by Construction Coffee Co. Go to constructioncoffeeco.com, a company that knows exactly what kind of fuel you need when the day starts too early and ends too late. They're not just slapping a label on cheap beans. This stuff is roasted with real grit, made for people who move, build, and stay busy. You've got blends like Crack of Dawn to kickstart the day, Sparky's Nightmare for the ones who live in chaos, and King of the Castle for anyone who runs the site or just thinks they do. And it's not just coffee. They've got gear too. Mugs, tees, stickers, hats. Tough enough for the job site, clean enough to wear on your day off. More blends are on the way, and they're just getting started. So if you want to support a crew that actually gives a damn about what they're making, check out constructioncoffeeco.com. Construction Coffee Co. Clock in, drink up, shut up.
Cass & Co. Upscale Thrift is redefining resale. Think timeless fashion, luxury brands, and curated pieces, all at prices that let you stay stylish without the splurge. Whether you're hunting for vintage classics or this season's designer staples, we'll make high-end accessible. Dress like you own the runway for a fraction of the price.
Yeah, and then this week was going strong, man. I was getting a lot of things done, and I'm only down a pound, but I was on a really good routine since Sunday, and the day that a bunch of shit happened, my stress hormones obviously went right up.
Yeah.
I didn't eat still. Like I didn't overindulge. I fought myself on that because I am an emotional eater, which is my biggest problem with my weight. When I get stressed, I eat for comfort food. But I didn't do that. I fought myself through it. So I'm proud of myself, because even last night, I'm still up and it's midnight. And I'm dealing with like everything still. I'm trying, everything's still up in the air. So we don't know.
Yeah.
But I like walked by the fridge 15 times, and every single time I'm like, I just want to eat something. But it's midnight and I'm trying to fast.
Yeah.
So
I think it's important for you to remember that in your instance, when you're trying to lose weight, you're also working out. So you are going to build muscle, and that is going to weigh more than the weight that you're going to lose.
That's why,
and you have to fuel yourself in order to build muscle and to be healthy, so that it doesn't throw your sleep and all that off. You have to figure out a way to either hold a deficit while still getting enough fuel, or
which I am,
or you have to work so hard that you're burning more calories than you can get in.
Yeah. Which is where I'm at right now. It's just, sleep and stress hormones don't help with that at all either. Like I have been working out, and I've been making sure of that. And I have been on like a strict diet of where I'm getting enough calories to where I'm not feeling like complete shit during the day, but it's not like I'm not over. I should be burning more than I am. And I know that. And my biggest thing is the whole sleep situation right now.
Yeah,
like it was a struggle.
Yeah.
I was on a really good path. I was going to bed by like 9:00, which is great for me.
Yeah, it was for a while.
And now it's back to midnight the last few days.
Yeah.
So we're trying to have another reset to where it's like I just need to push myself back down into that routine and keep that going. And I'll be there. And to make a point to what you said, like my number at, what did I say, 170? My number at 170, that's me with muscle mass. If I didn't, I'm a small enough guy that I could probably get down to like 150, but I obviously want to have muscle mass in there too. So my numbers, my scale numbers have never mattered to me. It's all about how I feel.
Yeah, I mean,
And so if I feel like I'm getting better, which I do, like I feel more energetic without, besides the stressful shit that's going on.
Yeah.
I feel more energetic and I feel better for eating, and I don't feel so sick all the time and bloated and, feel like bullshit all the time. So I know that that's a long game for me, and that's why I have the 4 months to really just keep going. And the only reason I'm saying the numbers is because we're going to do that for everybody.
Trying to hold ourselves accountable.
But then everybody can still see, like, it's not about the numbers, it's about the end result. And you just
really
have to
is.
keep working through it.
Right. It's more so about creating a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. And the numbers are there too for us to check ourselves and be like, could this be lower or could this be higher? Can I do everything?
Yeah.
To help
it's a marker.
with that?
It's something to gauge the progress. For me,
especially for you.
I'm light and I don't look like I'm in like bad shape, and
but you're not where you want to be.
I look fit, and me putting on 30 pounds is like me putting on 30 pounds of muscle, which is a lot. I look, when I say I want to be 165, I'd like to be heavier than that. But the last time I was 165, I almost looked disproportionate, so it's like, I know I'm not built to throw super heavy weight around like I used to, that was fun to try and hit certain goals. And now it's more so like I want to have range of motion and strength and be healthy. So I know that size will come with that. And I can relate to the stress and the sleep pattern and all that. I've also been stressed out and it's like a job for me to try and get enough calories in. I'm up early, super early, but not hungry, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So
you're at the point too where you have to force yourself to eat.
In order to gain, I have to eat enough to maintain, which is probably 3,500 calories a day. And then if I want to gain weight and fuel my muscles to grow, I have to eat in excess. And that becomes, like a full-time job, like eating 3
5 meals or
see what I'm getting thrown off?
It's stuttering through it.
5 3-course meals.
There you go. You're missing the course in there. Yeah. That's why.
5 3-course meals a day is hard.
And a lot of protein. And it's expensive.
So if I'm supplementing with shakes or with other things, it's not like those things help with the calorie intake. I can eat healthy for 4 meals a day and then go get a fifth that's like a fifth meal of McDonald's and eat like a Big Mac and a shake, and then I'll get that extra calorie intake. And that is how I can get, like, I know that I can do that, but I also want to fuel myself with healthy food.
Things.
Like healthy,
and also if you're
healthy.
If you're only intaking, protein shakes, I know you're not, but I'm just saying, if you're only intaking those protein shakes, like you need to have some kind of supplement, like AG1 or something. Please sponsor us. But I mean, like, because I need to be in a deficit, I'm making sure that I'm taking the AG1 in the morning because I need some kind of like greens in there because right now, dude, I mean, I'm on one of these protein shakes a day. These are 180 calories and I'm on whatever else healthy thing that I try and snack on after this. And then my window closes at like 7 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night, depending on when Cass gets home, of whatever healthy meal that we're going to have. And so I'm really only intaking, and I'm not overindulging with that. It's portion eating.
Right.
So I'm really only intaking like 1,250 to 1,500 calories. As long as my biggest...
If you maintain that, you'll be fine.
I know.
As long as you're active and maintain that.
Dude, there's been... I forget about the study, but there was that doctor who was like, no, I'll prove to everybody that it's just about calorie deficit.
Yeah.
And he ate Twinkies.
Yeah.
He literally just moved to a diet of Twinkies and showed over a course of 3 months, he lost 30 pounds just eating Twinkies.
Mm-hmm. As long as
it just was a deficit.
Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't feel great.
Right.
But to prove a point that you have to keep that, if you're trying to lose weight, you just can't overindulge. And with people who have those emotional eating disorders, and can't seem to break that cycle, that's the biggest problem. So I'm trying to with everything that's going on too, it's all a reminder that life, as you try to work on yourself, will immediately throw something at you to try and rope you right back into what
yeah, I
you're
mean, the
used to.
universe is always going to check you. Universe,
Yeah.
God,
And
karma, whatever,
if you
will always check you.
Yeah, and if you go, hey, I'm gonna better myself,
Mm-hmm.
I can almost promise you within 2 to 3 days after that, the world or God or the universe or all of the gods, whatever you think, will throw something
Yeah.
so hard at you to make you think that you can't journey on.
Well, you will always be challenged.
Yeah.
At the level that you rise up to. You
Yeah.
know, you're going to be
And it's almost
tested.
immediate.
Yeah, you'll be tested in those ways. Every time I try to level up, I am brought back to, different situations or at least situations that draw my attention to things that I've been through in the past.
Yeah.
And it's always a true test of, putting your money where your mouth is, kind of showing up to it the way that you say you will and want. Most of us, even if we're unhappy, have desired the life that we're living in some way, shape, or form. We made decisions that have led us to where we're at. And it's important to remember that you asked for it, and you can continue going on. If you're unhappy, you can continue to grow and rise and create new goals or, new experiences that you want to have, but you'll always be checked into that growth and whether or not it's happened or not.
Yeah. And when you're being challenged, it's like, that's what we talk about by having these tools.
Yeah.
I've been through enough of it that I can almost spot it when it's happening. I still get sucked in like everybody else, but a day in, where it used to take me a month to realize, like now I'm a day in to be like, this is the universe, this is God, this is whoever checking me and challenging me to see if I'm actually willing to do the work.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm actually willing to stick to what I said.
Yeah, most of it, I think the lessons that I have learned in the past are the ones that I'm most aware of when they're presented to me again. So if something triggers a similar feeling, of something that I've worked through, I definitely recognize that and understand that I have to move through that experience in a certain way, or I'm going to get the same kind of result. New challenges. I think it's harder to recognize right away. But again, you're always presented with the ability to overcome or grow out of different experiences, and to level up. So I think that's where like the whole self-awareness thing comes into play, and being able to manage and understand, the emotions that you have and what's behind those. There's a difference between like, what is it? Emotional awareness and emotional regulation. And it's really easy to say, I feel XYZ, last week or a couple weeks ago, last week I was talking about how angry I was. And, I'm still angry, but I understand there's a lot of pain and a lot of anger and frustration with myself for not moving through experiences in the way that I feel like now would be more beneficial for me. So, it's hard to get out of that loop when you're beating yourself up. So I'm trying to utilize tools, like you said, whether it's the journaling and reading. And I always get to a point where I feel like there are certain things I have to do when I'm just like so overwhelmed and stressed out. The first is I get to a point of frustration where I'm going to go work out and try and hit that hard to make myself feel better. I know it's going to release the chemicals in my body that are going to make me feel good. I've been working on breathing exercises. That has always helped me with my anxiety and bringing me back to like the present moment and not getting too caught up in fear and worry or rumination.
Well, it lowers those stress hormones too.
Right. So there are things that I do that tie into me, into the way my mind works chemically. And it's harder for me to do things that are more intellectual at times because I feel like I'm putting an emphasis on the thing that's bothering me. And then I have to, if I'm journaling or whatever, I know that journaling is really good for me. And I'm trying to form that habit again of journaling every day and really writing things out, not just.
And that's a
the
challenge
surface
in
level.
itself because you have, it's almost.
It's hard for me to do it because I feel like I'm putting down on paper all the stuff that's been in my head, and I know it's good to get it out. Like I know that gives me a release.
Yeah.
However, doing it, it's like I'm making it larger in the moment, and I'm hyper focusing on it even more. And
that's what I was going to say is like you have this when you're journaling and stuff, you have like you're going to dump all this stuff out, but then eventually you have this self-awareness. So it's almost like you almost have to have an understanding that you while journaling, you may get too self-aware, and that's okay.
Yeah. There's a duality.
It's okay. Yeah. There's always going to be.
There's a duality to going through the thing that you're not wanting to
that's
do
the
and
hardest,
the reward for that work.
The hardest thing to do is what you have to do. And that is, me and Noah had talked about this yesterday, and it doesn't matter if your hardest thing to do is, like I said before, like getting up out of bed just to take a piss. You count that as a win. And that, like, you can stop yourself from doing the hardest thing, but all it does is push that pain along, and then that pain grows.
Yep.
If you take things head on and go, I don't know. If you've already gotten to the point where depression and anxiety has pushed you to a point of suicide, or you've gotten to this point where life is so fucking hard,
You're ready to give up.
What's the difference of just going head on into the pain? Right? Like over the last few days, I've had more of this warrior mentality, and obviously with everything going on, if you're gonna accept your status that you've created for yourself, or that you feel the world has put on you, and you're going to have a moment where you may give up, and you might run to the right, and all your problems are to the left. What's the difference of you running to the left?
Yeah, I mean, you're putting energy.
Because the feeling on both sides is, I'm not going to be a part of this. Like, I can't be a part of this world anymore on the right. And that might be self-harm or suicidal thoughts or whatever.
Escaping with substances or anything.
And the pain on the left, if you think about it, is just as equal because you're so afraid to deal with it. So what's the problem?
I think
I understand the problem because I've been there. I'm just trying to voice it, to hear it in a different way, because if they're both the same, there is no difference of you charging into battle against everything that is taking you to that place.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the situation and the person, but I know from what I've seen, there's a lot of embarrassment and guilt and shame attached to the places that you find yourself in when you are feeling hopeless. And it's really hard to look at things that you should have done differently and acknowledge that, and then step into it's hard to step into trying to correct things that you've done wrong with energy and enthusiasm.
Absolutely. Because you do step into it with more guilt and embarrassment.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a matter of establishing kind of your own toolkit, your like mental health toolkit, where that there are things that you can rely on that are good for you, regardless of what you're feeling. Things
regardless of the past, regardless of the future, regardless of anything that anybody else would say.
Taking care of yourself, trying to sleep, trying to eat right, trying to be active in some way. All of those things are the basic.
Staying away from any negative substances and any negative people.
Yeah,
because
I mean, you have to protect your mental health. You have to protect it, and
we were talking about this, like that situation at the end of the last one with Jim Rohn, and I told you about sharing your cup, right? Sharing your cup is great if you're in a good place and if you're willing to learn. If you're on the other end and you're barely struggling, or I mean, you're really struggling to even get by, and you don't have anything to pour out of your cup, and your cup is so thin or there's barely anything left in it,
Mm-hmm.
I create this analogy where it's like you just cover the cup
Mm-hmm.
and hold on to it and work with what you have.
Yeah. Well, I've got one. I got one for you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
What's in your cup makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I read something last week that made me think of what you were saying in that respect, but it was talking about, whatever's in your cup is what's going to get spilled. You got coffee in your cup, you're going to spill, coffee. Tea will be tea. If you got anger in your cup, when your cup gets bumped, it's, you're going to spill out anger. Whatever you're holding in and whatever you're carrying with you is going to be what spills out. And I think it's really important to, be mindful of what's going on behind the thoughts and feelings as you're navigating life, and really trying to be in tune with, what you feel is, going to come out.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know that you're unhappy, if you know you're not in a good place, then clearly when the outside world and, people and things, interact with you, depending on what state of mind you're in is going to be what comes out. And I know it's hard when you're in a bad place to be mindful of how you're received to other people, because you're in pain. You want the world to acknowledge your pain. And I think it's important to have those tools and people that that can help you and rely on. You and I are both experiencing or have experienced situations where we know the right answer,
Mm-hmm.
but for someone else, but you can't just give them that answer. They have to be receptive to it. They have to want those changes. They have to be motivated on their own in some way. You can't force somebody to take the medicine.
Yeah, maybe it'd be beneficial for us to, not necessarily starting these out, but creating some kind of link directly to the tools that we talk about, not just like separate links for books. And because we have those on the website, like we have book recommendations, we're going to be updating those. We have blogs that kind of help work through situations that we've written on our own, but having some kind of list with like the podcast link of how we've described it might be beneficial for people who are just listening. And we can just note that in the very beginning or at the end and say, hey, go to this part of the page. These are the tools that we've already stated, and that you can ask yourself, hey, do I know about this tool? If I don't, then maybe I should learn about it. Maybe I should listen about it. And then if not, or if you know that tool, then it's a check to you. Like, that there's a tool right there. Are you using it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or creating some kind of checklist for people where it's like, am I using these tools? Because we're not doctors. Like, we're not physicians. So I'm not a psychiatrist.
We're literally just trying to relate the information that we picked up on. But that
doesn't mean that we're not capable of what we said on our walk today, where it's like, it doesn't mean I'm not capable of going into informational areas and grabbing healthy things and compiling them together to give to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. The journey of life is what ends up being the teacher, and you come into contact with people throughout your life that can help point you in the right direction and are there to be guides. And, I think us trying to provide that information to people is, it's an attempt to, like, for myself, this is an attempt to give back to other people in the way that I've been helped through my struggles and through my hard times.
Even if you're the one who helped yourself.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Or the universe helped you or whatever.
All of it comes back to you being accountable to your own words and actions and thoughts. All of it comes back to mindfulness, self-awareness, all of it. But you do get different markers and teachers and guideposts along the way. And if we can be a positive help to somebody as they're going through something, that's ultimately, the best thing. That some of the most wonderful conversations I've ever had have been like really dark, deep conversations with people that I would never expect to have that conversation
But
with.
they needed it.
And also providing information has helped kind of, it's been a marker for myself of what I've been through and being able to recognize that I've grown in certain areas.
Mhm.
And it's a marker for areas that I need to continue to grow in, that I'm not perfect in, and all that, And I do think if we can provide, whatever we can provide to people to help them out, I think that's ultimately the best thing.
Yeah, we're going to
And-
continue to find more and more.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just to reiterate, you can find all that information and we'll upload that to the B.A.D.
Yeah, I mean, thebadproject.com.
Yeah.
But we're also, I'll start posting stuff on the Instagram and Facebook, and we'll just start a list, and
Yeah.
we'll add to that list. We'll post that list every Monday and be like, hey, if you're starting your week today, here are some tools to get you by.
Yeah.
Keep this, saved or whatever, and maybe people will start using it to help them out.
Absolutely. So
Here's my question for you. Why are a lot of our analogies cups?
I'm referring to the cup thing because you brought up
I
the
was
cup
just
analogy.
thinking, like,
I don't
pick up. I've gotten some messages saying like, "Oh, hey, I
It's
just
the
want to let you know I
algorithms.
picked up the cup today."
It's just our phones
Yeah,
listening to
it
us
is,
and
absolutely.
suggesting
the whole
articles
Chat
and
GPT
information.
thing the other day was
Mhm.
pretty wicked.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I think,
It's no different than you bringing up red card, green card.
right,
And
it's been used, and
my
like
also
the journals.
having
Yeah,
a red
there's so many
journal, green journal.
connections. There's so many connections in life that put you in the same spot as somebody else.
Yeah.
Like you're running the same race.
Yeah.
You just might have to find another tool to get through the same race.
Yeah. We're all,
Everybody has their own path. Sometimes there's a rock in the middle. Sometimes there's a fucking log.
Yeah.
And you don't know which one you're going to get.
I mean, all of the information that we have for the most part is been passed down from person to person and experience, through experience, through books. And it's just a regurgitation of similar information that gets streamlined and shared with others. And that's just been it through history. The things that we're talking about have been shared by hundreds of millions of people throughout thousands of years. And
Meditations.
yeah, all that. So
Um,
on that note, I'm Chris. That's Garrett. This is the B.A.D Project Podcast. Thanks for listening.
No. I told you that I sat and tried to do a podcast by myself because I was trying to figure out. I didn't even know what I was trying to figure out at the time. I kind of talked to Noah about it too, but this overwhelming feeling. Let me ask you this: do you think people are inherently good or bad?
I believe that people are inherently good. However, I think the environment heavily influences that. And I think that everyone is inherently good as they're born, but it very quickly can be affected by the environment.
Yeah.
So I think
by nurture.
Yeah. And most people.
So we were at the art fair in Ludington a couple weeks ago, and we have a ton of paintings, and I'll put them up here or whatever, of Paul King. Great artist. And turns out he's fantastic to talk to too. We had a good time. I really like talking to him. But he had asked us that question, and then he went into talking about how people are inherently bad. And I was like, okay, well, let's hear out why. I'm not going to shun, a thought away. I like to play the experiment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And me and Cassidy were talking about it and stuff afterwards. And she's like, no, I think people are inherently good. And I was like, okay, well, let's hear this out. So Paul starts explaining, people are good and they have good inside of them until you take away everything that they have, then they become bad.
Yeah.
However, he told the story like, hey, if there's an EMP and we lose everything and you lose every chance to have your food, and the only thing that you can do is take that person's food, you're going to steal their food.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. And I understand how that's bad. But I also look at it like this. If you're taking that food to provide for your family, in your mind, that's good. That's your only option.
Yeah. Also, in theory, though, there's the third option, which is, what if two people recognize that they could better help each other,
right,
by not taking any food and combining resources?
So then they're both good.
In theory. I think that we as a society and a culture are so far away from what was meant for us. I think the Native Americans had it right. However, it's not as though they did not war
correct
amongst themselves also. But I think there's a natural order of life in which we are supposed to acknowledge and receive, from the earth and live a peaceful life that gives back to the earth. And it's supposed to be a natural, peaceful cycle.
I really think you're right. And I think we're so far away from that. And I'm like trying to not get emotional about it, because yesterday, when I was sitting here trying to figure something out, like I sat down, no idea what I was trying to figure out until I got towards the end. And I'm like, I'm struggling with this thing because of what's going on, about how people just seem to be so fucking mean to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of like who did what and this and that, it just seems like the world. And I kept asking the question, I'm like, how do we do it? And it's like, I'm asking for world peace in my head. Like, how do we get people to just be fucking nicer to each other? And I think I just came up with, I didn't come up with it. And when I say the words come up, I think I just mean it's the revelation, like all of this information that's finally poured into me, that I'm like, this is I'm finally seeing what's been taught to me, whether it's through situations or whether it's through another person who's already told me.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, the way to change the world is to be the change and to spread the love out there no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels hard when you're living in a world filled with fucking darkness, and you're living in a world, like, I don't allow that into my life, but you can witness it everywhere. And I'm not talking just about social media. I just mean about people who are in such a rush that they don't care about another person's feelings.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing is that you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and protecting yourself and your peace and all of that. And I think where real change starts to happen is when people get outside of their comfort zone or get beyond that and are willing to do more than they would just to make sure that they're okay. So when you have people that go and, volunteer to do different things to help different parts of the community, those people are going outside of their normal comfort zone, outside of their familiar circle, to give more to people that could use it, right? And those moments do help each other. I think that there's lots of experiences in situations where people are touched by somebody else's generosity or somebody else's care, and it changes their perspective on how people can be, and you see those people try to affect that. But I think it's just culturally. I think culturally people have, with the help of entertainment and programming, TV, social media, all of that, I think there's a lot more money in keeping people divided and uncertain and in fear and basically not in tune with their true nature and what's most important, the energy that you give and flow, or that you give and receive in life, the flow of all that. When you get people scrambling for all of these different things outside of themselves and not looking at how they are perceiving things internally, and then also putting out there,
right?
You run into all these issues and problems where people are kind of just worried about themselves.
My question for that,
in a superficial way.
Yeah. And my question for it is, like, that I keep asking myself is, the people who, and I already have the answer, because I've dealt with these situations before, where it's like the people who don't want to help themselves, you can't help. Like, you have to, like, you can only help the people that want to help themselves. However, you can, I get what you're saying. Like, you can still be an example of that, and that therefore compounds into other people who become examples. But it just feels as if, and I think both me and you have, gone through this recently and stuff too. You're fighting yourself because you feel like you're giving up on people
Mhm.
when you say, I can't be around you or I can't have this in my life.
Mhm.
It feels as if you're giving up on another human being, when I think in turn, it's what I think in turn it's just giving up on the situation.
Yeah, I mean, part of looking at any situation is all of the aspects, including how it affects you, how it's affecting the other person. And, the old analogy of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Brian, our friend, continues to reiterate that to me when I talk to him. And, I think that that's very true from my personal experience. I can know all the answers that would help somebody through a situation, and I can tell them what to do all day long. But unless they acknowledge where they're at and that they do need to do some things differently, no amount of information is going to change that. I mean, just look at society. There's such an overload of information that it's almost hard to filter out the true like gems in all that information. There's so many reels about relationships, and you talk about breaking up with somebody or being unhappy, and you're going to get a feed full of information about how your happiness is about you. And if you're not getting what you need, then move on to get what you want. It's harder to find those messages of accountability.
Maybe you're
that
doing something wrong. Maybe you
Right.
have something to work on.
show up the way that you want to receive first. Be what it is you're trying to get that from that other person or would like to feel for yourself. Bring that into the mix and then see what changes it makes. Not just run
If it
and
doesn't
escape.
make that positive change,
Right.
then you
And it's
can
hard.
proceed to move on.
It's hard because you and I both have situations where, there's been an ability to help lead or guide or direct help and the personal experience of growth in certain areas that we've had, and you try to share that wisdom with people. And sometimes they are, not too motivated to follow it because of where they're at in their own minds. And, it's like people have shared a lot of advice with me over the years. And only until I, got to a situation on my own and experienced my own lessons from poor decisions
Or your own rock
from
bottoms
lessons
in those situations,
unless
yeah.
I've gotten to a point where I was so sick of feeling the way that I felt or living the way that I was living that I had to do anything differently to make it different, and it sucks that sometimes it takes that amount of pain and destruction and like hurt even towards people you care about in order to see it from a different perspective. But when you're going through it, it's really hard to, see the forest through the trees,
Yeah.
and
I'm, and I know that I'm dealing with that right now because I'm a little close to a situation, but I want to feel as if people are inherently good. And I know deep down that people are inherently good.
Mhm.
And it's just,
I mean, most acts that I think upset us or that we see people having as self-destructive are a lot of times areas of self-preservation. And they're usually acting out. We're perceiving someone's actions as like acting out or creating more problems. And in reality, it's something in their nervous system is being triggered that's creating an escape or a deflection or um, a projection onto the world around them. And either you have to have enough practice in seeing those things and being able to, peel back those layers to
Yeah.
get to the root of things, or you have to have resources around you or people around you that can help you get to that. And it ultimately does become the person's choice in whether or not they want to see any wisdom in someone else's advice or, like I've been to the point where I was so miserable that I was willing to try anything to make me feel better. But I knew it had to be in a healthy way because I'm responsible as a parent to make sure that I'm not creating more chaos in my kids' lives.
Do you think you'd be in a different spot if you weren't a parent?
Absolutely. For sure. I don't know if it'd be in a better spot. I wasn't on a great path before my oldest was born.
Do you think that... I was talking to Noah about this, and I told him, I said, it's a difficult perspective for me to have because I don't have children.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think, and it's impossible to have this, but I always think like, well, if you need a license to catch a fish, if you need a license to drive a car, you might need a license to be a parent. Now, however, all of time, that's never existed. And maybe it's just the people around me who have said it more often, and that's why it feels like it's like a bigger thought than it is, where it's like, oh, I'll grow up once I have a kid.
Or I'm sure that there's that out there. I think that the experience of having a child mixed with the type of person that you are ultimately defines what kind of parent you are. I used not having a dad, and I had my brother's dad around, who's a good example of, a father, but not my dad technically.
Mm-hmm.
And so I already had issues, abandonment issues tied around that I didn't even know about. And as I've gotten older and had experiences with my kids to help draw attention to those areas, and, with therapy and journaling and all those resources and tools, I've gotten to understand myself better and how I operate. But that's people's responsibility, is to unpack their thinking and who they are a little bit, in order to be the best versions of themselves that they can be. And I know, like, I wasn't on the greatest path, and I've made a ton of mistakes and bad choices. But I tried to do what's right for my kids based off of what, like, I would need, if I was in that situation. Or, if I was a kid, what I would want or need for myself. And I know that I'm not like everybody's not like that, I'm winging it. On the same time, I'm winging it, I'm trying to utilize these things, and I'm trying to be smart, and I'm trying to be a good person and do the right things, but I'm also winging it, and everybody's winging it. You can plan out having a kid and have all of those checks and balances ready to go and set. And that kid comes and you're still winging it just like everybody else. You just might be set up in a different type of position that allows you to be more secure.
Or you might have learned the
safe.
Information beforehand, which helps you out,
It
helps you more prepare for it.
I think in theory, all kids should be planned for, right? Like, in a perfect world, you wouldn't have kids just being born without the preparation to make their lives the best that they can be.
Mm-hmm.
But that also eliminates the diversity of the world and diversity of the people in the world. And,
that negates creators like that takes, when you say diversity, like
you have to have people at different levels
right.
of understanding and cognition and intelligence walking around this earth. Because if we were all the same, if we all had the same level of,
we wouldn't
it'd be
have
a utopia.
Certain, we wouldn't have certain things in life.
You wouldn't have, right. You wouldn't have
all art would be the same. All,
everything.
All of these podcasts would be the exact same. We wouldn't be having these conversations.
You would need to.
Everything would be perfect. And in a life that's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, that's the duality of,
there isn't life.
Like a utopian, 1984 type life is, there's people that want to push that type of agenda. And, we've seen it in movies and all that kind of stuff where it's just this, system that runs everything. And in theory, those systems are great and they're designed for like the highest good. But in all of those movies, it's also an elite group of people or person is a book. George Orwell. Yeah. So like,
I haven't read it yet, but I know what it's about. I don't know why I haven't read it.
You should probably read it because we're starting to experience it.
I'm not,
but I guess what I'm getting at is that it just, when you have a utopia when everybody's thinking and doing the same, you don't get the true life experience, and it eliminates the growth in people and the ability for people to grow beyond whatever the standard is right now. People have always been able to evolve over time, and that's why we're at like the conscious level that we're at, and that can continue. But I think that there's definitely a lot out there that wants to inhibit that because of the way that people are looked at in general by, more elite people on the earth. People are just like ants to others, so, when they're convincing you that like healthy things are bad for you, natural things are bad for you, and trying to shove other things down your throat.
There's a reason that's just been around forever, for thousands and thousands of years.
Right.
There's a reason that, and I used to not pay attention to. I have this way of dealing with the news as well, where it's like out of sight, out of mind. I'm going to live my own life. And if somebody shows up at my door and tells me to do something that I don't want to do because it's law, all of a sudden we might have a problem.
But that is part of the problem, right? Like back in the day, people used to get together and they would communicate with other people in the community. That's how you had the changes in community and the life in which people were helping each other out, and the country was growing. You had diversity. You had a lot of things that were
there were problems too, but
there's always problems,
right?
For sure. But there's all of these divisions out there that keep people separate, and you don't want it to get to the point where somebody's knocking on your door doing something when you have the opportunity to be involved in a change now.
Completely.
However, because of society, social media, all of those things, it's very easy, I think, for the rich and powerful to affect people's motivation to do anything or speak out or act out in any kind of way, and most people want their creature comfort so much that they're willing to thing. If I can live my life, if I can make my money, if I can go on my vacations, if I can have my phone and like live life the way that I want, I don't care what I have to give up for that. So people give away all these rights that they have. Like, what has made America great for so long? And again, it has its problems and always has, but this is the place that everybody around the world has always wanted to go.
Yeah.
And that's because there's been the freedom to speak your opinion and say what you want, backed by the right to protect yourself. So here it's been a God-given right that you are allowed to live how you want to live. As long as it's not hurting somebody else, you're allowed to be free, right? And the same freedoms that people have here, they don't understand how much that's taken for granted. You have people that want to be able to say whatever they want and express whatever they want that go after a different side because they don't agree with it, not realizing that maybe that other side is also trying to protect that right. So, and you don't have that in other places.
So when I say like I just ignore the news, like I don't want there to be a misconception, because I still vote and I still try to participate. I just wait until the facts are out now, because there's so much, like we said, there's so much information that you have to sift through what's real and what's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And eventually the truth comes out, and that's when I go, okay, well, this is actually the truth.
Yeah.
Like this is actually, the conspiracy is actually the truth. And so now I can make my decisions based off of that. And when the entire like news cycle is negative and all of that, like it's okay for me to separate myself from that and get updated by the people around me who keep that in their lives, because it's an importance to them. And I completely understand that. And it's an importance to me that we don't lose our rights. But I know myself personally, and I can't affect the world if I'm focused so much on that.
Right. And I get that. And I think a lot of people don't want to do that. And that's probably part of the problem, because the people that are trying to chase power and the people that are trying to chase money are willing to do that. They're willing to go work their way into politics and, get themselves a voice where they're heard, because they want that money. They want that power. And if those people are willing to go and put that energy in to do that. And there are good people that could also be doing that choose not to. Eventually you'll have what we're getting, which is a bunch of shitty people making choices for all of the rest of us. And there's truly at the root of it, their own self-interest is what is motivating
Always.
it. There's only a few people that
How
I
do
think
you
are
have
in.
one person in, like, it doesn't matter which fucking party, but one person making a decision for, like, ultimately making the decision for everybody.
Well, what happens, I think, is people just assume.
Instead of working, everybody
Yeah.
just working together.
Well, so there's multiple problems, and we could do a whole
right.
podcast.
I know,
on
and
it,
we probably shouldn't continue
right. But just to make it quick, there are multiple factors that affect those things, and at some point, people do need to feel comfortable in voicing their opinions on things and realize that, like, I think there's just this whole trust in government and trust in people. Again, like you were saying, that they might be inherently good. I know people that I've had conversations with that truly believe that the government and the people legislating laws over us are looking out for us. And you can show them multiple examples throughout history in different parts of the world and in our own country where the government has done bad things to people. They've experimented on people. We've done dirty things to people, other countries. It's not all cookies and rainbows.
It's not sunshine
and rainbows, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
especially here in the United States,
Right.
there's tons of things that come out all the time about how we've been lied to.
And the problem is, once upon a time, if you did stuff that was, terrible, if you were living a terrible life or doing things to harm others, and weren't really looking out for the people, they would tar and feather you. They'd pull you out of whatever your office is, and they'd tar and feather you for being,
and put you as an example in the middle of the street.
People that were
we shouldn't get into
harming
that
others
right now, because I believe a little bit about the placement of people in the middle of the street to show an example of.
And we've gotten away from that.
It's the same idea as other countries. If you're stealing, they chop your fucking hand off.
Right. And so we've gotten away from a system that's rooted in values that are actually generally agreed upon as good for the people, to everyone identifying with different ideologies. Everybody's identifying with different types of personality and ideologies that are not constant and true. They're not factual things that are rooted in, like, a core consciousness or anything like that. Everybody's, a lot of people anyways, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people get sucked into...
It's hard not to talk about that.
When people get sucked into the divisiveness of things, you know what I mean? There's polar opposites to every group and every type of person out there. You have the people multiple people that claim the same thing, that they support and think the same thing, but some of them are willing to do some pretty terrible things in the name of that, which would go against the core values of the other person that also feels the same things, but doesn't want to act in that way, And so there's all these divisions. And I think ultimately the culture of, we're here to be good people, to help each other. If we all make the pie bigger, then we all get a bigger slice of pie.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are just so worried about their own slice.
They're not worried about baking the pie.
They don't care about the person that lives next door. When it goes down, if stuff goes down in the country, you would be better off to rely on all the people in your community to help each other out, defend your community, and create a real community where everybody can help and have a part. That's what would be beneficial for everybody, no matter what the time of day is or what is going on in the current events. And instead you have everybody just worried about their part. And so everything is fractured and everything is separate.
Which is another reason that we're sitting down here. That fracture of community and that separation of people helping people and people loving people creates this, world filled with pain and depression and anxiety and this fear of not having a place to go.
Mhm.
I'm really struggling with this. I don't know if it's just a situation, but I'm really struggling right now with. I feel like the world is a fucking shitty place right now.
It is.
And I'm trying to not talk myself into that because would it be pessimistic way of thinking?
I mean, I don't know. I think that sometimes
I
it's
just like,
important to look at and acknowledge the truth of things. Like you have to get honest about what something is in order to really analyze it and then move
I just
through
keep
that.
going back to this. And I know you've heard me say it before, and it's one of my favorite things to say. But in terms of helping, like helping the situation, it doesn't.
What, thinking
But
about the bad things?
no, like I go back to what I say, which is people suck and dogs are cool.
Mhm.
It's like my favorite thing to say.
Yeah.
Because it's like an excuse to be like, well, we can't change people and people suck and dogs are cool.
Mhm.
But I feel like I'm using that as an excuse instead of, I feel like I'm using that as an excuse to not try to figure a way to help people.
Well, I think it all, kind of what we were saying before, it all starts with yourself
Right.
and personal accountability. As that grows, say
I
you have
know.
a family, say you have kids.
Yeah.
Now that level of thinking expands to another body or two.
Mm-hmm.
Get married, it expands to another body. The more you grow into life and the more you're walking a path that is beneficial to yourself and those around you, I think the more opportunities life presents for you to have an effect on the world around you. And I think that as you continue to just try, as you continue moving through life, trying to just put out positivity, right? And healing and peace, right? The more that you can continue walking that path, I'm sure that at some point you will be led into different positions and different opportunities that are going to reach out further.
Yeah.
And
I get that. I understand,
Mhm.
obviously I wouldn't be working on myself if I didn't think that me working on myself, I have self-worth now,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't be working on myself if I didn't think that I didn't think it would be beneficial to me and others.
Oh.
Because like my brain does not just, and it never has thought about just me.
Mhm.
I think of myself first now because I've trained my brain to protect myself and put my mask on first.
Yeah.
Knowing that the more work I do to myself, the better off I am to help other people
Mhm.
if that situation arises. It's just, and again, this comes down to like me using the tools that we talk about to remove me from the fact that I'm thinking that the world is just a fucking terrible place.
Well, so there's ways that you can unpack this, right? And as an overthinker and somebody that, like I've definitely read on different philosophies of thinking in life, and I know you have too. And so there's a couple of ways to look at it, right? We can go back to the Stoic and the Stoic way of thinking, or you could apply it to a bunch of other philosophies of living. But ultimately, it's a way in which you perceive the world and the people around you. If you see people making shitty choices, doing bad things, you can absolutely call that out, hold them accountable, and be frustrated or angry about it. Or you can do what some of these different philosophies of thinking say to do and acknowledge that that person is probably doing what they know the best that they can. And it's their lack of knowledge and understanding that keeps them behaving in a way that's less than what it could be. So in theory, even if somebody hurts you, in theory, you're supposed to have pity on them, because if they were at your same level of understanding and awareness, they would never behave that way. However, I do think there is a limit to the amount in which somebody should negatively affect you, or you should allow somebody to negatively affect you. And ultimately, people do have to take steps for themselves. If you're getting consequences over and over, it's your job to be responsible for your reactions to the situation. And
I know, looking at the world in a place of, sorry, I just want to get this out. But I know, like, looking at the world and looking at people and the way that they treat each other and the way that they treat me or you, I know looking at them as they're in pain. And like you said, they only know what they know. They only know how to handle that.
Hurt people, hurting people.
Right. And I know, looking at that is, like, I know that that's pain. I know that the way that people treat each other is pain, and they might not even know that it is pain. They might not know that they were raised, they weren't nurtured the right way. It's just a hard thing to continuously see.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard.
And keep going. And I think a bit of that is what causes some of my depression. Is like, I can take care of myself and I can get myself out of this depression, like we're talking about doing these things and putting your mask on first and taking care of all of your emotions first. But it's like, when you do that and you get out of it and you want everybody else to get out of it too. And it's like you're reaching for, we talked about this on our walk. You can only, the Coast Guard will only help the first people that they help are the people who are swimming towards them.
Yeah, a lifeguard.
The other people don't matter.
If a lifeguard's going to rescue somebody and they're trying to save somebody that's drowning, the moment that person starts pulling them down, they need to kick away so that they don't drown too.
Yeah, and I get that. It's a difficult thing to see when you want everybody else to do better. But it just keeps coming back down to, it doesn't matter what you want. It matters what you do.
Yeah.
And it matters that you take care of yourself.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think it's a matter of awareness, right? And I think a lot of people, something I just read this week in a book is something I read in a book.
Stop.
Of course, it was in a book.
Pretending you read.
Yeah, right. Something I read was about acceptance, and it was essentially saying that a lot of people think acceptance is just acceptance in that word itself, as in, well, the situation is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it, and so I just have to accept that it's not going to change. And real acceptance is acknowledging that this is what it is. I feel, XYZ about this, and it's an opportunity to, grow from that area. You're accepting that this is the way that it's been, that this is how things are, and that it's not feeling the way that you want it to feel. So it's an opportunity to move forward in the right direction. And the crappy thing about life is that all the things that make us feel bad are opportunities for us to grow through it in some way. And people can only help themselves ultimately. We can guide them, we can try and teach them, we can give them the resources, but they have to be the ones to, take that information and apply it to themselves and move forward. And I think it's hard, especially if you feel like you have the answers for somebody, or you've tried to provide help to people and they don't want to take you up on it. I have a hard time like accepting that if I've gone through an experience with somebody or shared some information with them that was, like a revelation or a eureka moment for myself, that if I relate that information to somebody and they understand it too, that they're not going to think the same way about it. I assume that they're going to take that information because it's so good and
because it helps you so much.
Yeah, and it applies to them too.
And then that goes back down to us not taking our own advice. That chain follows. And we can't sit here and tell everybody to like take everybody's advice.
No.
But I can say that if you're going through life and you think that you're right all the time and you think that everything you're doing is justified, I think that you need to take a better look, because in human nature, that's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to look at moments where you feel challenged and acknowledge that I'm feeling challenged.
I'm saying that for people who have a bit of like narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that for people who have entitlement. Me and Noah had talked about how people are inherently good, but it's entitlement and greed that gets them to being there. But I just
greed,
like
envy.
Yeah, and I just challenge people that if you think that you did everything perfectly well in that moment and you're the victor in that, I challenge you to think if you did anything wrong and see if there's anything that you need to work on as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's always moments for that. I think going back to what you were saying or asking about originally is that you can help guide somebody. The answers can be there, but ultimately they have to pick, right? They have to decide that. I think that in terms of the way that we operate, where we want to help people, and you do have that desire to help guide or teach someone or share information, whatever it may be, right? I personally have experienced more than one time in which, in doing so and like making myself feel good about trying to help someone out or trying to do what I thought was right about helping someone out, I completely disrupted the lessons that they needed to go through and the darkness that they needed to go through. So that's something I even beat myself up about now is situations that I technically am not responsible for. I'll still go back to and ruminate in the past, in my mind, somehow thinking I can affect and change the past that's already, obviously I can't. But I'm analyzing a situation or situations that I can't affect anymore. And I'm like, well, when I helped that person through that hard time, which was clearly a lesson, it's almost like I was so affected in a negative way by that situation, or somebody that I care about was so negatively affected by that situation that I tried to help them through it.
But you're
interrupting to get them better. But I stopped them from actually.
You're interrupting their growth.
And I interrupt the lessons that they have to look at in order to see that perspective and gain the perspective of their effect on that situation.
And we spoke about that too, where I think me and you are leaning more into God lately and stuff, and I think me and you had talked about the fact that
I've always been holding it down for the G-Man. So
we talked about that. Maybe us trying so hard to help other people and maybe doing that, we're interrupting that. We're interrupting his plans. We're interrupting the universe's plans or the world's plans to help to teach them. Yeah. We're stopping their lesson.
Right. You and I have decided to read certain books and grow in a certain way because of the level of discomfort, frustration, and pain that we were in. And I sought out resources and help and in ways to alleviate that pain. And eventually it, led me to a place where I knew that I had to do something. Right now, if somebody would have kept helping me by making something easier in that situation, I don't know that I would have hit the level of desperation to change.
I'm wondering if by helping people, because we've been through it and we don't want other people to go through it, are we going to
enable a bunch of people not to look at themselves and not grow? Yeah. Well, all right, we're done. Fuck all of you. You're on your own.
Are we doing this? Like, I know the answer to it, but I'm just asking it as a devil's advocate, saying,
yeah, absolutely.
Are we doing an injustice to them?
I don't think so. I think we are providing resources for the people that acknowledge that they're in a bad place and want to do it differently, because we're just rephrasing in our own words information that we've absorbed out of moments of desperation.
Right.
Like, now I'm at a point where I like to learn about myself. I like to grow. I like to
Absolutely.
figure things out. And
if I'm not,
grow
I feel
myself.
stuck.
Yeah. So now I'm at the point where if I feel like something is a reoccurring issue in my life, I'm like, oh, I want to explore that.
Mhm.
Let me read about it.
I'm not afraid of it anymore.
Right. Let me figure that out. But I was not like that. Originally, the things that drove me to wanting to expand my knowledge on something such as myself was out of pure desperation and pain. Like feeling like something bad was going to happen, or I was going to do something bad if I didn't figure something else out.
Yeah.
And I don't know, if I would have done all that had I been alleviated in some way, and I've had the pleasure and curse of having, certain reoccurring issues that have not been good and have deeply affected me and, my kids. I've been able to look at that over and over and analyze myself through those situations over and over, and the other people or person or whatever, and ultimately it all comes back to all the stuff that I've read, which is it's on us to be self-aware enough to understand what's going on internally, what we're thinking, how we're reacting, and our job, if we want to take action steps forward, to be different. And that applies to every situation and every person around the world. You can get the teaching and you can get the resources, but you ultimately have to be the one to decide. Even if you're not going to do the work per se right away, you still have to acknowledge that it's going to be on you to make that choice, And I think that we want to help people that we care about. So we're willing to, go a little above and beyond to have that belief in people and try to help them. But like you said, I don't know if it's, always helping. I don't want to see people go through pain and feel the things that I have experienced that I hated,
I'm going to start the next one with us talking about what it's like to be down there, like that, the writing that I had, because I do think that that's helpful for us to explore. When me and you talked about, we don't want people to be there, but it's
I could be wrong. Maybe we do. Maybe they do.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's almost beneficial that they at least know what it is.
I would agree.
If it's in their existence, they might understand it more and they might get a bigger understanding on life, because I know that being in the darkest fucking places of my life, it wasn't in the moment.
Right.
It was after the moments, weeks, months after the moments that I was there, that I realized that you get this deeper understanding of how fleeting life is and how finite we are as people.
Yeah, when you're depressed and analyzing your life and how unhappy you are and uncomfortable you are, it brings out an awareness to the amount of pain. And when you're that close to an edge, how easy it, like you're wrestling all day long with humanity and like a soul aspect of life and life in general. And nobody can teach that to anybody, and nobody can relay that information to anybody. So the people that have been in those deepest spots and then worked themselves out of it have a different level of perspective on life.
I want to pause right there, because I want the next episode to be solely, I don't know if it'll solely be about that, but we're going to start it off by me sharing a writing of me in the darkest fucking place that I was, one of the darkest places that I was in, and the writing style that I have now versus then.
Yeah.
And we're going to make the exact point of what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Well, I love everybody. Everybody like and subscribe, buy some shit. And
that's Garrett. This is Chris.
That's Chris.
This is the Bad Project Podcast. A nice
Go to
little...
thebadproject.com. Check out our sponsors. Everybody's helping us out. Thank you guys. Love you guys for all the support. And keep working on yourselves.
Yeah.
And inherently be good people. Work on yourselves. Challenge yourselves. And know that you're not perfect and you all need help. And I need more help. I need to do more on myself and Love everybody.
Yeah. Bye.
Peace.